all off season long, every single time the Vikings make a transaction, whether it's adding an edge rusher or defensive tackle, it's always about, what about the cornerbacks? We need corners, corner. And every single mock draft, you see the Vikings taking a corner, and it does make a lot of sense, especially after signing up Zadarius Smith. But also, the offensive line needs a little bit of work. But hey, fix things, sign J.C. Treader, plop his ass in the middle, and then just go on zippity-doo-dah. But cornerback room, you got some questions. So Patrick Peterson still floating out there in the ether. Now, I wouldn't mind Patrick Peterson back, but I don't want him back on his one-year, $8 million deal that he had last offseason. Now, if we're talking 3, maybe with incentives up to 5. Do you want to be part of something special? I mean, Patrick Peterson has got to see that Harrison Phillips and Zadarius Smith coming in with Danielle Hunter and Darren Kendrick, like something special is going to be going on with that defense. And even though his guy Zimmer ain't there anymore, Ed Donatel, very respected. Also, he's a defensive back-minded coach. So, I mean, something's got to be going on there. Also, Durante Jones was the DC at his alma mater last year, LSU. Actually, that could cut both ways. Maybe it's just like, he was garbage. What'd you do to my alma mater? Anyway, so Patrick Peterson's floating out there. Mac Alexander is not going to be back. Whatever. Also, Bashar Breeland was cut last season, so he ain't coming back. So it could be up to third-year pro Cameron Tiny Dantzler, former third-round pick, the Needle out of Mississippi State, where he had a golden opportunity last year, was sort of a wet blanket when he didn't get a chance to start right away, but was thrown into the spotlight, and he didn't build off that fantastic second half of his rookie season in 2020. So he really needs to step up. I think that he could. We'll see. Harrison Hand, my guy, 5th-round pick in 2020, out of Temple, also out of Waco. He's been a crush of mine because every single time he gets on the field, whether it's on defense or special teams, good things seem to happen. I like his length. I think that he's a very solid outside cornerback. They also worked him in the slot a little bit last year. So 38 special, even though he changed his name to 20. 20 special needs to be in there. I think that he could be a dark horse. Chris Boyd has gotten some work. I don't know. I don't know, man. And the veteran Perry Nickerson was on the practice squad on and off last season, did see some game time. They signed him up, so whatever there. But the Vikings do have options in free agency as well as the draft. And even though, hey, we didn't get J.C. Jackson, hey, we didn't sign Travarius Ward, we didn't get the top-tier cornerbacks, there's still some good dudes out there. Now, number one, would the Vikings bring Trey Waynes back? Now, Wayne's got a bit of a bad rap, mainly because in 2015 they Vikings could draft a Marcus Peters. Now, initially it worked out, not so much for Marcus Peters, but Trey Waynes, I think that he was solid. I don't think that he was worth the $14 million per year that Cincinnati gave him, especially when he lost his job to Eli Apple. Like, bro, like you lost your job to Eli Apple, who was garbage, and you were playing special teams in the Super Bowl. I mean, what the hell? But I mean, if Trey Waynes wanted to come back, minimal deal, maybe. Stephon Gilmore floating out there. He's probably going to get paid wherever he lands. I think Spot Rec projected his market value at around $14 million per year. So maybe, even though the cap is definitely a myth, $14 million bucks on a 31-year-old cornerback who has had injury problems recently. I don't know. Joe Hayden is also out there. Joe Hayden was a stud in his day. Does he still have some decent football left in him? Maybe, if the price is right. Now, Kyle Fuller and Bryce Callahan, both formerly of the Broncos, also both formerly of the Bears, do make sense with the history with Ed Donatel. They would know the scheme, hit the ground running, and I think that both of them could be had for pretty low amount of money. So, my first choice, well, I want Bryce Callahan first and foremost so he can lock down the slot, because that's a very big ask to have a rookie cornerback come in and take over. And as of right now, I mean, Harrison Hand can work the slot. Same thing with Perry. So, yeah. But Bryce Callahan would be that dude that you would feel comfortable in the slot working in Donatel's system. Kyle Fuller, sure. But he would be my third choice. Patrick Peterson would be my second choice in free agency because I don't think that he's going to cost a ton. Jack Rabbit Jenkins is out there, but he's still very long in the tooth. Jason Verrett, actually, he shook off some of the injury demons, but I mean, they're still there. Kevin King, no. Xavier Rhodes, no. I would much rather have Trey Waynes than Xavier Rhodes. I would. Jimmy Smith, no. Jimmy Smith is like the immortal one, man. Coming out of Colorado. He's shockingly old, 33. AJ Bouye, no. Steven Nelson, PJ Williams, Justin Coleman. I think Justin Coleman re-signed. with the Dolphins, I'll say. Former Vikings legend Justin Coleman, 2015 rookie camp as well as training camp. Hargraves, draft bust, no. Josh Norman's 34, yikes. Richard Sherman, no. Jason McCourty, no. Mac Alexander, definitely not. No. So, I mean, it's a lot. Oh, Greg Mabin, former Vikings legend, Fordham Ram. So it's a lot of picking through for agency. There is still some value to be had out there that the Vikings can afford. And I think that picking up a veteran or two so that you're not just completely desperate in the draft does make a lot of sense, even though the draft makes a lot of sense. Wrong slide. There you go. Zoom in and enhance. So this is the CBS Sports Cornerback Rankings. And I think they're a little bit low on Sauce. I think they're a little bit too high on Stingley, but it is what it is. And with so many teams thirsting after quarterbacks, as well as edge rusher and offensive tackle, especially the Vikings are good at edge rusher, they're good at offensive tackle. I could see them passing on a quarterback this year. So those are three positions that are going to go ahead of the Vikings in big time capacity. So I think some really good cornerbacks are going to fall into the Vikings' lap at 12, and maybe Sauce Gardner gets there. So for me, it's been a three-headed monster for cornerback 1. It's been Sauce Gardner 1A, Trent McDuffie from Washington 1B, 5'11", Antoine Winfield Sr., as well as Derek Stingley 1C. And I would love if Sauce got to 12. I would be fine if they took Stingley or McDuffie at 12 if Sauce is off the board. Stingley, you're betting on the upside, although he's dealt with some issues. But Durante Jones, the Vikings' new defensive backs coach, like we mentioned, was the LSU DC last year, so he would know Stingley through and through. So it would say a lot if the Vikings pass up on Stingley if he was available. So maybe, or they go a different route at cornerback. It's possible. For me, McDuffie's just that guy, man. I get CBS too low on Trent McDuffie. I like Booth Jr. For sure, but I like McDuffie a little bit better. McCreary from Auburn, who's been mocked to the Vikings at times in the second round, makes sense. Kar Olam, he may be the hidden gem of this draft class because all these other cornerbacks are getting a lot of hype. I think Kar Olam is just rock solid, has length, and can press on the outside. He's fantastic. Darren Kendrick, former Clemson wide receiver, converted cornerback, went to Georgia. So I'm not a testing snob, but you got to check the box. You got to check the box, man. And maybe Darren Kendrick just had a bad pro day, like Cameron Tiny Dancer was bad at the combine, but was perfectly fine at his pro day. So maybe he just had a bad day. Who knows? Emerson, Waller from VT, Josh Jobe from Alabama's in there. For some reason, they don't have Kyler Gordon out of Washington in this list. And I wouldn't be upset. So say the Vikings do sign J.C. Tretter, which they have the cap and the motivation to do. And then all of a sudden, offensive line isn't that big pressing need. And we're not a fan of drafting for need. But if your top player is BPA, cornerback at 12, cornerback at 46, all of a sudden you have that youth infusion in that secondary. I'm mad at that. I ain't mad at that at all, man. Tariq Woolen, the physical freak. Speaking of former wide receiver, 6'4", 205, tested insane. But coming out of UT San Antonio, the Roadrunners, I don't think he gets out of round 2. Like I think there's enough potential there that he's not going to slip into round 3. In all likelihood. But yeah, the Vikings, I mean, there's a ton of options there. I understand the snarky thing to do every single time the Vikings make a big move. Oh, they signed Zadarius Smith. Can he play cornerback? No. Cupboard ain't bare, and the Vikings do have options both in free agency and second, third, fourth tier free agency, as well as certainly in the draft. So keep Skull alive. Vikings cornerback room is going to be great. And like we mentioned, you don't need to cover very long when you're getting a sack on every single play because Z-Man as well as 99, you got 99 problems, and the Vikings pass rushes all of them, baby. But your thoughts are thoughts. Options that the Vikings have at cornerback. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Venmo, pay that man his money. The cap is a myth, but Venmo certainly is not. Toss a little something in there. But until next time, Skull, production value.